Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is this plot I'm about to discuss going to force Trump to start the internal revolution? And this is a really big thing because, as you recall, August 3rd, 1984, the angel Gabriel visited Dmitri Duduman and told him, this is important, okay, because everybody's wanting, I get several emails on this. Is this going to be the internal revolution? So he was told the following America will start with an internal revolution in America. We got that part. Here's the question. Started by the communists. What's going to start it? Started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. Now, what's unclear about that is that like a military overthrow, or is that, just like it says, some of the people start fighting against the government? What would cause it? In other words, is it the good guys in and the bad guys come in and attack them? Or is the bad guys in and the good guys get tired of it and they come in and attack them? Which one is it? Well, there's a real big question because of the things that were just said. Now, before we get started, let me remind you that you can go to 844-771-1776 and get yourself some of these, either silver or gold, and this at prophecyclubbar.com. It breaks apart into little chunks so you could carry, a little uncomfortable to carry a bunch of coins with you all the time, but this could carry in your purse or your billfold very easily. Also, if you have your money in paper, be that a 401k or an IRA or just money in the bank, and you don't want to lose it, should things fall apart, good idea to call 800-200-GOLD. Doesn't hurt, doesn't cost anything. They might say, no, you're in great shape. That's good. It's good. It's worth the check. Kind of going to the doctor. Maybe they don't find anything, but it's worth the check. 800-200-GOLD. Call them and say, okay, here's my situation. Am I okay? All right, now, so here it is. And by the way, I first heard this from Marco Rubio on Fox News on the Hannity Show. He said that he had heard that there's about 8 or 9 Democrats in a position to do some disruption that could not certify the election. Meaning, even though Trump got the majority of the votes, even though he's got, 309 electoral votes, he's not president until he is certified. And apparently, what Rubio discovered, what this guy's about to say, is that there is a plot, there is a plan among the Democrats not to certify the election. So even though Trump was elected, they get in there and they refuse to certify the election, and all of a sudden we had a problem. This is what it says. U.S. Congressman says, declare Trump disqualified. Then we would need bodyguards for civil war conditions. He says United States Congressman Jamie Raskin attended the opening of an intellectual law policy center and recently made remarks on video below, I'm about to play it for you, where he said Congress will, he didn't say might, Congress will disqualify Trump. Then we're going to need bodyguards for a civil war condition here in the United States. He didn't say we might. He says they plan on doing it. Now that's the question. So hang on. Okay, so let's run with that for just a second. So let's say, I don't know what the date is. I'm just going to guess. I think it's January the 6th. So let's say it's January the 6th. I think it's January 6th. I should look that up. I'm sure somebody email me and let me know. But it seemed like it's either December 6th or January 6th. It seemed like it's January 6th. Anyway, so Congress, for him to be Trump, for Trump or any president to be president, Congress has to, quote, certify the election. So let's say Trump, having got, I think it's 309 electoral votes, and the biggest populist vote for many, many years, all of a sudden they get in there, the Dems say, no, he was involved in the insurrection, and so consequently, we're not going to certify the election. We're not going to make him president. What would happen? That's the point of today's program. So he goes on saying, in the astonishing video, Raskin seemed to let slip what can only be described as a plan in Congress to thwart the will of the American people if they re-elect Donald Trump as president. Of course, now we have. Raskin brazenly said it would be up to us to tell the rampaging Trump mob their guy is disqualified. Under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, insurrection, and then we all need bodyguards for Civil War conditions. Now, here's the video.
Put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means.
So as you see, the congressman is planning on taking action in defiance of the American people for something that Congress itself has already acquitted President Trump for, and that would be insurrection. In other words, it's nothing. But if enough of the Dems stand up and say we're not going to certify it, what happens? Goes on to say the second impeachment of the President Trump, filed January 13th, 2020, specifically accused Trump of incitement to insurrection. Over the January 6th protest, and Trump was acquitted by a trial at the United States Senate. Okay, so he wasn't convicted of it. Yet, according to Congressman Raskin, there seems to be a plan afoot in Congress, and Marco Rubio confirmed that, plan afoot in Congress to put Trump in jeopardy twice for the same charge, perhaps in violation of the double jeopardy clause in the Constitution. In other words, you can't try someone twice for the same thing. Trump was never criminally charged for insurrection. He was politically impeached and was acquitted at the trial in the Senate. I believe the trial protects Trump from being disqualified, but again, he says, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not either. So he says there is apparently a plan afoot in Congress to defy American voters if President Trump is reelected in today's election, and of course he was. So, are Congressman Raskin and others in Congress planning and plotting to betray the American people when we know he won the election and they know it'll create a civil war? Is that started by the communists? So the big question today is, so could we see the internal revolution that was spoken of by the angel Gabriel to Dmitry Dudin on August 3rd of 1984? Could we see that if it's January 6th, and I think it is. I think that's when they certify him. Okay, so could we see the internal revolution start that day? Now let me point out a couple of things that say yes. Then I'm going to point out the big thing that says no. First of all, it rained 40 days and 40 nights. The children of Israel wandered in the desert for 40 years. 40 is the number of judgment. And August 3rd of 2024 made 40 years since Dmitry had the angel Gabriel come to him and say the fall of America was started with an internal revolution. So that's something that says, well, it could start in 2024, as this is the 40th year. It is estimated that there are about 100 million law-abiding gun owners in the United States who, according to ammo.com, possess approximately 500 million firearms. In addition, the armed forces of the United States consist of about 2 million active duty members. If only 10% of those civilian American gun owners decided to confront the federal government, armed Americans would outnumber the entire Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force by about 5 to 1. Given the fact that about half of our armed forces are either stationed outside the country or presently deployed to Europe or Russia-Ukraine situation, and also deployed in the Middle East over the Israel-Iran remaining situation, our Americans would outnumber any remaining troops by a far greater number. But we don't have tanks. We don't have missiles. We don't have some of the training. We don't have the coordination. We don't have the communications. We don't have what our military does. Moreover, many of those active duty troops would not fire upon their fellow citizens. But, I'm about to show you something that'll shock you. We'll get there. And many would likely side with their American brothers if a civil war erupted. So frankly, the federal government wouldn't stand a chance against the American public. Don't hold your breath on that one. Yet Congressman Raskin arrogantly and brazenly said he feels that there will be a civil war condition here in the U.S., and maybe this is why the Biden regime allowed tens of thousands of military-age men from China and elsewhere to cross the southern border illegally. Now that throws another monkey in the wrench. Maybe they gave cell phones to those people crossing the border. They gave them debit cards, some $5,000 a month we hear put on the debit cards. And maybe that's the reason we haven't heard much trouble coming from them, because right now they got money. And we've heard that those people coming across the border illegally have been called to go through certain training. And apparently the deal is, the scuttlebutt on the internet is, I've read it, is that they're going to say, if you'll do this, and if you happen to die, we're going to take care of your family financially wherever it is. Can you see a potential problem? I got an answer here. Hang on. Prepare yourselves, folks. It seems that Congress is planning what Congressman Raskin openly called civil war. Now let's go to another one. This is American military news. This is important. So videos and pictures show Biden-Harris administration approves military use of lethal force on U.S. citizens. Oh no, there's posse comitatus. They can't do that. That's a long-standing law. The U.S. military cannot be used to go against American citizens. Unless they've changed it. This is about to say it's been changed already. The Department of Defense is facing significant backlash after releasing DoD Directive 4240.01, which took effective September the 27th of 2024. The Biden-Harris administration's latest DoD directive has been accused of authorizing the U.S. authorizing the U.S. military to use lethal force against American citizens. In other words, posse comitatus off the table. That means if something were to happen before Trump came in, anything, and the American citizens decided they were going to raise up and they're going to do something about it, Biden could call the American military to put a stop to it. The directive gives the Pentagon authority to approve assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality or any situation which is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, there you go, including death or serious bodily injury. The DoD directive also includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. Okay, is that saying that the military can also go against our sheriffs, our police? It includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials. To me, it's unclear. Let me go on. The Biden-Harris administration has done something 2 weeks ago that has never been done in American history, which is to send a directive to the Pentagon changing the law to make it legal for U.S. military to use lethal force against American citizens on American soil. Boom. Why'd they do that? Why did Biden-Harris remove posse comitatus? Why did they just send a directive saying that our military can be used to kill American citizens? Kennedy added, under this directive, it would become legal for the U.S. military to shoot and kill, I'll read it again, legal for the U.S. military to shoot and kill Americans who engage in political protest because they disagree with policies coming out of the White House. Okay, now sometimes prophecy can tell you about bad things coming, but sometimes prophecy can tell you about the bad things that are not coming. Okay, so that brings me to the big question of the program today. Stan, does it look like the internal revolution spoken of to Dmitry Duduman is about to take place? And here's your answer. I do not think. But let me read this one more. I'll show you. DOD shreds all remaining constitutional protection from Posse Comitatus Act in anticipation of post-election civil war. It goes on, look at the middle. The U.S. military is not supposed to be involved with law enforcement activities in any capacity whatsoever, but this did it. Okay, so the blue side doesn't certify the election. The red picks up the pitchforks against them. You know it's not pitchforks, but you know I shouldn't say what it really is. Is this going to start the internal revolution? I'm going to say no, and here's why. First of all, a brief background. April 15, 2002, I've covered this many times. Leslie was spoken to in the night and given a dream. The conclusion of the dream, the interpretation is this, that Arafat would go into the hospital, but at the time he wasn't allowed outside of his compounds. That is a very risky prophecy to put out to all of our supporters. But 2 years later, 11/11/04, 3:30 a.m., Arafat died in the hospital exactly as the dream told her. That means that the rest of this is confirmed. You can count on it. The next thing is Israel will give the Palestinians a state. Now, when the October 7th war started, it certainly looked to me like that'd be a good time to conclude with giving the Palestinians a state. Well, it hadn't concluded, and they haven't got the Palestinians a state yet, but the counting of the Omer, which I'll get to in a second, is April 13th to June 1. So could it be that the Palestinian state's going to be given sometime between April 13th and June 1, 2025? Next, the Palestinian state would be a temporary measure to allow the Israelis time to strengthen the military. Oil will be discovered, my opinion, that not only makes the Jews willing to fight for the land, but also gives them the money to build their military. Then Israel and America go against most of the rest of the Arab world. Stan, this hasn't answered the question. Is the internal revolution going to start here in the next few months? That's the question. Here's why I say no. So then, January 22, 2006, Leslie, in the middle of the night, was given audible words to headlines. And I can confirm she was giving them to him because June 27th of 2008, that was the night that I heard, Stan, I will give you the money to drill the well in Israel. And then the rest of the night, he spoke to me. I can't remember anything else except for he showed me my wife, Leslie, standing in front of our fireplace in our home, holding up newspapers with these headlines. So I can confirm this is real. Now, get to my point. If you look at these, see the first 6? Those are the things we can look for before the start of the internal revolution. If you look at number 7, very bottom, it says it will start with an internal revolution. So until we see at least a couple, but in my opinion, until we see all 6 of those precursor headlines, we're not going to see the internal revolution. Okay, so what is that saying? It's saying that the internal revolution is not about to start. It could be that they don't certify the election. It could be there's quite a squabble, but this is not the start of the internal revolution until we see Omar ushers in Palestinian state. We were watching closely for it this past year. We'll be watching closely for it again this next year. My guess, of course, I thought it was going to happen last year, or this year, I should say, but my guess would be it's probably going to happen next year. Why? Because Trump's about to be in. He is a big peace guy. So I can see him calling Netanyahu in and saying, look, we got to end this war. I told everybody we're going to end this war in the Middle East. We're going to end the war in Ukraine. Possibly by then, the war in Ukraine will be solved too. So I can see him saying to Netanyahu, look, you guys got to get along. You got to give a little, and they got to give a little. We got to meet in the middle. Well, that's not what God wants. God does not want his land split. I have 12 or 14 people that says that if America splits Israel, God is going to split America. The Great Lakes will open up all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. You don't believe that'll happen? Then you don't understand the power of our God. Omar ushers in Palestinian state. Then the catastrophe hits America, in my opinion, is the New Madrid earthquake. Happens probably the next day, definitely shortly thereafter, days or weeks right after it. Then America has now been split in two, and she's desperate. She's almost destroyed. So America cries for the world to help. It's one of America's greatest times of need, but their good ally, Israel, refuses to help. Why? Because we just forced Israel to split their land. As a result of this, the enemies of Israel look up and say, hey, America's got this big earthquake. It's been split in half. And Israel and America are in a squabble right now. Now would be a good time to attack Israel. So Israel is attacked, but America still sends troops. And that is my opinion again. That is the thing that involves us in a war where Israel and Russia is already in a war. It involves us in a war, and Russia says, okay, America has involved itself in a war with Russia, because Russia at that time will be in a war with Israel. So, now not the biggest, not Armageddon yet, okay? But Israel is backed up by America. So Israel, at that point, Russia says, okay, we got a reason to attack America. Next headline, chaos reigns as Americans protest help to Israel. And we've already seen that. That's shocking to think that a Christian nation would not be supporting God's people. They don't understand. Now, again, I've got to say it's not necessarily the order they're going to happen. Matter of fact, I moved around what she was told because I think that's the order it'll happen. But that might not be the order. But I'm pretty sure the last thing is it'll start with an internal revolution. So the conclusion of today's program is this. No. There might be a squabble. There might even be some bullets flying. But it's not going to be the internal revolution. Not until we see the Palestinian state given, probably America split. And it could very easily be that these first, I'll give you my opinion again, the first 3 could take place in 25. But if you back up to the one before, if you back up to here, if God were to give me the money right now to go to Israel, drill that well, for the time it takes to get the oil out of the ground and into the hands of the Israelis, to build their military enough to where they feel comfortable in attacking and fighting the nations around them, you're probably talking at least 2, probably 3, and probably really close or more to 4 years. So the difference, the distance between number 4 and number 5, in my opinion, is at least a year, probably 2 or 3, and it could even be 4. So what I'm trying to say is, no, we're not about to see the internal revolution start yet. It's just not going to happen. However, I'd recommend you go to sat123.com, consider getting yourselves, laid it out of the way here, a satellite phone. They not only have satellite phones, they also have satellite hotspots. You can connect your computer all kinds of things. Matter of fact, they got lots and lots and lots of stuff there. Promo code Prophecy gets you a discount. sat123.com. They have all kinds of things there. sat123.com. Promo code Prophecy. In 2021, I started making bread. And long story short is I believe God showed me that wheat is God's famine food, just like it was famine food back in the 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, days of Pharaoh and Joseph. And I believe that that's what God has planned to feed his people. And you get it by going to josephskitchen.com. 3 steps. First, you want to get a machine package. Second, you want to order 6 ingredients and watch some videos, download the recipes to be able to make the bread. josephskitchen.com. Most of your long-time storage food, emergency food, all of that, typically are talking $9,000, $10,000 to feed one person for a year. Joseph Kitchen can show you how to do it for around $1,000 a person, and your kids will actually eat it, and it's actually good for you. Here's some bread that I made. In my case, I lost weight, lowered my blood pressure, gives me more energy. I eat a morning, slice in the morning, slice in the afternoon. There's always a slice before I go play racquetball. Go check it out, josephskitchen.com. When the suitcase nukes, I didn't say if, I said when the suitcase nukes go off, if you want your car to start, if you want your computers and your refrigerators and things like that, anything with a computer chip to work, you want to have one of these. From EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. And they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps your Prophecy Club. If you don't want to lose your life's savings, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the thing to do is call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. These folks are Christians, and they specialize in helping people not lose their life savings in the event of a stock market crash and things like that. Look, most of the 401ks, most of the IRAs are in paper, backed by paper, and as Lindsey Williams says, if it's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You can lose it all. 1-800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. Hey, give them a call. Doesn't hurt, doesn't cost you anything. See if they can give you some good advice.